Welcome to Glowing Success. My name is Heidi and I am your host. This podcast is for beauty entrepreneurs. Join me weekly as we dive into the beauty industry's ins and outs, from business strategies, top-selling services, and taboo topics. I will be interviewing industry leaders with empowering stories and game-changing insights. Let's illuminate your path to success together. Let's jump into this next episode. Hello, I have Hillary here. Hillary, thank you for being on my podcast today.
Thanks so much for having me. It's good to be here.
Yay!
Woo!
I'm so excited.
Me too.
So a little bit about yourself. As the listeners want to get to know you, they want to get to know your vibe, what's your background, why are you the best to hire for content creation, or just how did you get to where you are today?
Yeah, so my background is very eclectic. I have a journalism major. I worked in TV as a news producer for about 5 years, and then I made the transition into public relations and marketing. But outside of my 9 to 5, I've always just kind of had my hands in different projects, whether it was content creation, being on TV as a beauty expert, and also doing bridal makeup. So I'm all over the place, which is fun, I'm kind of a Jill of all trades, I guess you would say.
Yeah. I've known Hillary for so long, and it's been fun to see your career even unfold. It's wild to me because it's like you just don't know where your life's going to take you sometimes, or your career, until you start really trying things and really going in different directions and following those passions. I saw one of the things that's most inspiring recently that I've been seeing with you is obviously your TV stuff that you've been doing, which is amazing. I've done a little TV myself, so just knowing how hard that is and the pressure that's there is so cool to just see you just shine. The other thing that I get really inspired by you is just how fast you built your social media. That is, to me, something that's wow, it can be really difficult in today's world. It's very competitive out there. It's very, you have to really be on top of your game. I know a lot of the listeners are beauty entrepreneurs, beauty business owners, maybe solopreneurs, or just people in the industry that are trying to thrive and make it and get in front of the game, so to speak. So as a content creator, how do you feel a person in the beauty industry benefits from either hiring content creator or really taking some insight and some tips from?
Well, to rewind and touch on something you talked about before, it's actually taken me a really long time to grow my following. I think it's kind of a slow burn, and I think a lot of people have this misconception of if I just go viral, I'll grow my following. Or, I'm putting content out every single day, I'm being consistent, and I'm frustrated because the algorithm is not pushing my content. So I think consistency has really helped me. On top of, having my, personal page, I just started building my own makeup page. And growing an account from scratch is really hard, on top of managing 2 platforms. So I think content creation, giving yourself patience and mapping things out and having a planning process, but also too considering hiring a content creator, someone who's well-versed, somebody who knows how to write engaging content, put out, fun short clips and videos. Reels are really hot right now, and focusing on that, and also putting out educational content. I think for me as a makeup artist and building this new page, it's having that mix of showcasing my work, having educational tips, and, just also having fun with it. I think sometimes we get in these ruts of okay, what do I put out? What are people going to resonate with? Will this, get so many views or whatever, which is such a first world problem. Because I think if you're, putting your craft out there, that's number one, and just experimenting with different, avenues.
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of it is just putting yourself out there, right? Whether it be a polished thing or not. And sometimes I feel for a lot of us, and I may be speaking just for myself here, you guys, a lot of it just seems don't have a path, a direct path. And I think that's where hiring a content creator can really help, is like they know, okay, maybe this week we're going to put out this type of content, or like maybe let's start recording these types of videos. Having a content calendar, I think, is like huge, right?
Absolutely.
But it's not something that's like necessarily like I am skilled in that. And so I think that's where a content creator really helps a lot, is like, I've done this, I've shown this, this is kind of where my, knowledge is, and this is where I can help you. But I think it's nice that you share that it did take a long time for you to build your social media, because online, I just see like, wow, she went from this to this, and it seems very quick, but I'm probably not thinking of the timeline that I've looked at that.
It's taken years.
Yeah.
Literally years. Lots of frustrations, a lot of, especially lately, I've had this kind of imposter syndrome as a content creator of, am I putting out worthwhile content, or am I just putting stuff out just to put stuff out?
Right.
So trying to like switch that mindset of just like the dumbest thing can, resonate with people.
Yeah.
Looking for trending audio. There's so many different tips and tricks, and I think that's where a content creator comes into play, of like having that knowledge of like what to look for, what hashtags to use, timing, all of that stuff.
Yes.
But to touch on your earlier point, like having that content calendar has been so helpful, especially now trying to grow 2 pages. I am one of those old school people where I like literally went and bought a giant calendar, and I use Post-it notes of like not only trying to grow Instagram, trying to grow a TikTok. It's a lot.
And I feel like they're a little different in some ways. And so they have different audiences. I think all social media channels have different audiences. Like for me, I really like to sit on Instagram.
Same.
I'm not like the most, social media savvy, because I feel like a lot of my business, my service-based business, has been built offline a lot. I've had it for 12 years, so like social media was not the thriving force when I early started, but now it is more. But then my coaching business, I find that I'm having to go online more, because I'm reaching people that are not in my area. I'm reaching people in different states. And so it's been really interesting, because it's not something that's like normal or regular for me. So I will say, like, if you're out there and you're struggling to stay consistent, or struggling with imposter syndrome, or struggling with just wanting to be on camera, maybe this is a time to start thinking about a local influencer, a local content creator in your area, because this is something that they can help you with, and like they can maybe give you that push, or maybe they can give you that little bit of insight of saying, hey, this is what's been working lately, because that is something that they are looking into all the time, that they're studying, that they're proving works and proving doesn't. I'm a big believer in having people around you, or listening to professionals around you that have tried things and it's worked, it's not worked, it's failed, it's whatever, but having that trial and error, there's so much that happens from that. And there's so much that those numbers you just can't lie with. Now, social media is kind of interesting, because we always hear that doesn't belong to you, right? So those followers don't belong to you. So I guess I'm wondering, as a content creator, how do you find that type of marketing helps bring people offline and into the salon or spa, or into that client's life?
Well, I've seen it, especially with my makeup page, just getting leads off of putting my content out there. And there are ways around not showing your face. Even though I've done TV stuff and I'm on camera and have that kind of on-camera presence, there are times where I'm like, I really just don't want to show my face. Mm-hmm. What can I put out? Let me create a reel of, my bridal makeup look that I did with a smoky eye. Or let me put out something that I created as a graphic that has tips and tricks of how to prepare for your bridal makeup trial. There's ways around that until you get to that space that you're comfortable showing your face. I think putting your brand out there and having that online presence and being consistent is key. But I will say it's brought me leads. I've just started putting content out where I'm like, okay, like this may flop. I don't care. This may not get the most views. I don't care. But people kind of use that as like, that's your portfolio. They want to see your work. They want to see your personality. They want to see, do I want to work with this person? So I will say there's benefit of putting that content out to generate leads, to get that business, and to bring new people, through the door, so to speak.
Yeah. And that consistency is probably where it's at mostly, I'm guessing. And, one of the things that I think I've seen over the years, specifically with beauty professionals, is every once in a while showing your face and really introducing yourself. There's something to be said about like, you can post the best pictures of like, let's say lash extensions online. That's great. And people will definitely drive to those pictures or videos. But there is something about showing your face and saying, hey, I'm Heidi. I'm the service provider. Hey, I own Sapphire Spa. Like, you'll be seeing me when you come in. Like, this is my story. Do you think there's any benefit to that? And do you feel the same way? Because I feel like with so much content that's on the internet nowadays, like, and social media nowadays, like sometimes you get shuffled in, right? And sometimes there is people out there that unfortunately recycle other people's content. And so it's like, it's hard to, when you're going to somebody's page, and sometimes if it looks too polished to me, and I don't know if you feel the same way, if it looks,
absolutely.
right? Like if it looks too polished to me, you're just like, I don't know. Like, I want to get to know the person. I want to get to know maybe their story a little bit. I want to get to know what kind of experience I'm going to be getting. And same thing with hiring other people, right? So when I hire graphic designers or like anybody who I hire in my business, like I am such a person that I want to know who they are more than probably their work sometimes, because it's all about like relationships, right? Like if I feel comfortable with somebody, I'm going to probably have a better experience overall with them. So how do you feel like for somebody that's maybe shy but showing up on camera, do you feel like as a content creator, like there is some benefit for them showing up just every once in a while?
I think that's a great perspective. So on my personal page, I, for a long time, was in this mindset of everything has to look polished and perfect. And, from other content creators that I've talked to, they're just like, you have to have a niche. And I'm like, but I like so many different things. I'm a foodie in town. Mm-hmm. I love fashion. I love beauty. I put my TV stuff out there, like my travel stuff. And to me, it's like, okay, maybe my following won't grow as much because I'm not an expert on my personal page. I just like showcasing things that I am happy about and things I enjoy, and letting my creativity shine. But when it comes to my makeup page, that's my niche. I'm an expert when it comes to makeup and beauty and bridal specifically. Yeah. But I also feel like people want to know who you are, like you had said. Yeah. They want to see, okay, like, what's this girl's personality like? Yes. Will I mesh with her? But also, I think putting yourself out there in a way that it's authentic. Yeah. Where it's like, I think we get into this headspace of, I have to be perfect online. I have to be, the best version of myself. And we do know that social media is a highlight reel in lots of aspects. Yes. But I think getting out of the headspace of, this doesn't have to be perfect. I can put this out there. Getting out of your own way, essentially. Yeah. And if you're shy, like, take those, put the little toe, dip it in the water. Yes. Just put things out there. Yes. Like we touched on before, that consistency. Yeah. But yeah, just being authentic in who you are, I think resonates a lot with people. Yeah. So what you see online is what you'll get in person. Yes. So finding ways to just introduce yourself, or a behind the scenes day, or get to know me, or do an Instagram live of like, what kind of questions do you have? Like, I'm here to answer it. I'm the expert. So putting yourself out there, do it, slowly until you get into that rhythm and that groove of like, I feel comfortable, I feel confident. Yes. Putting myself out there. Yeah. Showing up. Mm-hmm. I'm hearing showing up and showing up consistently. Like that's helping the most. And that's something that a lot of us would benefit from. I think, hiring somebody like yourself, mostly you're just going to have like that content calendar, that expertise of knowing maybe what's trending, like noise-wise, maybe what's, something that you feel like their niche would really benefit from. I do think there's something to be said about showing a little bit about yourself. So having all those different interests, it doesn't matter. Like, I think that as long as your client can, or your desired person that you want on your page or seeing those posts really views that and engages with that, that's really important, right? So like, how do you feel people are getting the most engagement nowadays on social media? That's a very loaded question, Heidi. Oh my gosh.
When I was thinking about this question in my head, I was like, oh God, I don't know if she's going to like me or hate me for this one. No. But you can give your 2 cents on it too, because obviously that's a whole conversation in itself. For sure. Because it changes almost hourly, I feel like, on social media. Right. But I feel like for the beauty industry, one of the things that I've been seeing, and maybe I'll just give my perspective first and then you can tell me what you feel about it. I feel like in stories, sometimes when people do like surveys or votes or those anonymous boxes or anything like that. I feel like that engagement has been really, I don't know, happening with a lot of people because it's quick, right? So I feel like on specifically Instagram, I'm sorry if anybody's like really on Facebook and like TikTok, I'm just going to mostly focus on Instagram right now, but we can talk about the other ones too. So I feel like stories, there's a person that just only views stories. They never go to your page. They only view your story. And then there's people who really soak deeper into your actual page and like kind of go through a lot of your different posts, look at all your little things, click on your button, click on your link, whatever you have. So I feel like for me in the beauty industry right now, stories is having a moment, and I could be really wrong with this, but this is maybe just how I'm viewing it too. All the people I'm viewing, I love their stories. I like, showing their life off, and I feel like I could be a lot better about stories, but I do like engagement from the stories. I think that's kind of cool. And then for maybe a person with the business and maybe your perspective, when somebody interacts with your story, let's say you did a poll or what have you, that's where you can jump into their messages and really start that relationship building. How do you feel about that?
I agree with all of that 100%. I think engagement is key in terms of just getting to know potential clients and building relationships. I think the number one thing of bringing in business is having authentic relationships and fostering those relationships. So if you have people who are coming to your stories consistently, there's no harm in reaching out in a DM of being like, hey, like just want to introduce myself. If you ever need XYZ, please feel free to reach out to me. Or if you have any questions, like I'm here to be a resource for you. I think stories are a spot that people are spending a lot of time in. They're quick, they're fast, they're easy. The polls, the questions, the stickers, the Q&As, all of that stuff I think is beneficial. And sometimes, people don't see your posts. Right. The algorithm is continuously changing, which is such a pain in the old behind.
Yes.
And I've read a lot of blogs. I've read a lot of, I've done my research of like, what hashtags are working? Do I use keywords? Now that's a big thing. It's constantly changing and trying to keep up with it is exhausting. But again, just trying different things, seeing what sticks, put stuff out there and just roll with it.
Yeah. That's where the consistency is there. That's where as long as you're consistent, and I think that's probably a hard part, but like as long as you're consistent, you're at least trying something, and then you can start playing your numbers, right? Say, okay, well, wow, I got a lot of engagement from that story the other day. Maybe I should do more like it or different topics. I always think that, yes, showing little clips of things that you're doing and inviting people into that part, of either your service or your spa, whatever, is such an interesting concept. I am also and I think this is something maybe we should talk about too, is like, I view a lot of my social media probably at work or in places where I have to be quiet. So I view a lot of things on silent. And I've seen that more people online are noticing that, and they're making content for a silent listener, basically. So what do you feel about that? Because sometimes sound is good too, right? Like
that's such a thing. And I think the newest thing too is making sure that you have captions, especially if you're viewing things silently.
Yep.
And also too making sure it's accessible for everybody.
Yes.
I like to do that same thing too, where I'm just like, okay, I'm sitting in on a meeting or I'm just distracted. Like I'm going to listen to this silently. I think more and more of that is happening. I will say too, back to the consistency portion of our chat, what's really been helping me lately is content batching.
Okay.
I will literally dedicate one day out of the week. But of course there's things that lead up to that in preparation of like, I did this last week. I literally put all of the PR packages that I've received. I put all of the things like, here, we're going to shoot this stuff today. I put it all in a giant laundry basket, and I found a space in my apartment to like fire things out.
Yeah.
And then I'll go, that evening or the next day and edit everything. So I have things queued up.
Yeah.
So once that stuff is captured and edited, I will go into my phone or type something up in a Word document for my captions, put my hashtags right in there. So it kind of takes out the guesswork of like, oh, shoot, what the heck am I going to post today?
Yeah.
So it's finding those little pockets of time. I know as entrepreneurs and business owners, we are very busy, and it's hard when it's like, okay, I'm running a business. I know the importance of social media. That's where it could come into play, where you outsource some of this stuff and like take things off of your plate of like, you know what? I'm going to try hiring this content creator. We can sit down, we can map stuff out, we can go over our goals, we can talk about, I really want to create more reels. How can I do that? Or, hey, I have all of these professional images that I hired a photographer with. How can I incorporate that into my social media?
Yes. I love that. I'm a batch person too. And I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs or people who are in the creative mind spaces, we have days where you're just not going to feel that juice, right? You're not going to feel that motivation, or you're having days where you're taking clients all day and the last thing you want to do is do some videos and, things like that. So I'm a big believer in trying to do batching. I think batching is great because the days that you're on and you're thinking about those things, run with it. Try to do as much as you can in that day if you can do it, and also dedicate that time. Like, time blocking has always been something that I've had in my business and in my life, really, let's be honest. And it does help because you're setting off that time and you can just really think about that. You can only work on, so I think that's gold. Oh my gosh, you guys. So if you're having issues and you're listening, you're like, I just don't know how to get in a good rhythm, try doing that. Try batching. I know a lot of people in the industry, we take like Sundays, Mondays off. That's also changed in the industry, but I would say most people take Mondays off. Maybe Monday's your admin day. That's my admin day. I do a lot of things on Mondays that either helping my business or helping my podcast, helping my coaching business, what have you. I have a lot of different things going on, and I'm sure you do too, but batching is great. Consistency is great. Okay, so you kind of talked about the process of when you hire a content creator, and I think this is great because that's the next question I had for you is, so let's say your listener is like a solopreneur, or even a large spa salon. It doesn't matter. I think everybody could benefit from content creators. I think a lot of people could benefit from just having somebody help them stay consistent and organized. But what does that process look like for you? So let's say somebody reaches out to you on Instagram and the messages and they want to set up, a first appointment. What does the rest of that look like?
For me and my both of my Instagram pages, I think when people reach out, whether it's a brand or a small business owner, I like to set up an initial call or meet for coffee. I'm such a face-to-face person. Obviously there's people who reach out where they don't live where I do. And so it's like we resort to Zoom or resort to a phone call, and we kind of talk through like, what exactly are you looking for? What is your budget? Do we want to do a retainer and do, let's try this for 3 months and see how, assess at the end of that 3 months of where things are. And I think people get in their heads of like, well, I'm going to hire this content creator. They're going to help me grow by thousands and thousands of people. And from personal experience, it's taken me years, like I said, to grow my own following. So I always try to set that expectation with whoever I'm working with of, hey, it's, it
takes commitment.
It takes time. So setting expectations, I think, is really important initially. And then communicating, with these brands or a small business owner of like, what's your communication style? Do you like email? Do you like calls? And just kind of getting into a rhythm and a flow. And after that initial call or coffee meeting and, figuring out like, hey, what do you want to hire me for? Then I set up a content calendar and figure out how many posts are we going to do a week? What's feasible? What's, enough where it feels like, okay, this is, I'm putting my stuff out there. Starting out, you don't have to do it every single day.
Right.
I like to tell business owners, hey, try to aim for a few posts a week, whether it's a reel, and try to be consistent with those stories. Repurpose content, from all of this content batching that I do, especially in the makeup world or the foodie world. I'm like, okay, I really like this trending audio. Let me go into my camera roll and see what I've created, over the past year or so, see how that could align and see how that could fit. So just because you're, spending this time batching content, there is benefit to that, obviously, but also you can use that content again in different forms and different ways.
Yes.
So that initial call, the content calendar, and then the creation time. Whether that's me coming in, if you're local and helping you shoot that content, and then I have that content, I like to put things into a Google Drive, for the client of like, hey, this is everything that I captured. Feel free to use this down the line, so they have those assets as well, which I think, as a small business owner, again, like you're running your business and you're just like the social media stuff. And then after that, especially with like reels, I like to give the client, a few times to look at it and have edits and drafts of like, hey, I really don't like this music, or hey, like use a different clip, or hey, let's put, captions or text over this instead. So it's really having that collaboration with the business owner. Not to mention, if the client wants me to write captions, making sure that I am being authentic in their voice and their messaging, and having a hook which draws the viewer in, and having a call to action of like, hey, go to my website for, more, go to my website to book. So there's a lot of different like tips and tricks when it comes to social media. And that's where the benefit of the content creator comes into play. If I'm already creating and working with these different brands, I have the expertise and knowledge of like what they're looking for. Again, trial and error. There have been things where things don't work out, or they don't like my content, or they want me to reshoot things. So there's all these different avenues, and being flexible is so key as a content creator. There have been times where a brand reaches out, I create the content, and they're like, oh, we want something different. A prime example, this happened to me recently, actually. I was working with a brand, and they wanted me to go shoot this product in the store, this big box store. I did that, gave them, the draft for approval, and then I ended up taking an unexpected trip home. And they came back with, we want you to shoot more. We want you to do this. We want you to do that. And I'm like, unfortunately, the timing of this just isn't going to work for me. I'm home, and the deadline that they wanted wasn't feasible. And I was beating myself up a little bit of just like, what? I really wanted to work with this brand. And, it just, the timing didn't work out. So again, just being flexible and trying to be flexible. Obviously, things can pop up here and there.
But that's where that relationship building happens, right? So when you first meet with somebody, I'm hearing like you are really getting to know them. You're getting to know their needs. You're getting to know even probably their audience. So I think that first initial appointment is really important. And who knows, maybe you'll work with somebody in the future at a later date. So I think that's amazing. I think the process that you just explained is very easy for a lot of beauty entrepreneurs to follow. Like, let's get to know each other. Let's have that first appointment. Let's talk about what you're wanting from a content creator or this process entirely, and how you can utilize that person's skills. So I was hearing like you are going to help them with maybe video creation. You're going to help them with stuff that they've already produced and organizing it. You could possibly help with copywriting and hook writing and call to action writing, which is huge, because I will say for like myself even, copywriting is tough unless that's something that you've really flexed and like really studied and like gotten better at. Copywriting can be really challenging for a lot of business owners because that's not something we do every day. So that I think all of those things on top of you just knowing the market and really understanding how things are kind of flowing or how things are trending, these are all pros and how somebody like Hillary can really help you guys, because those are things that, let's say, in your business, you really want to optimize, right? So for me, for instance, one thing I learned early on in my business, and I'm sure you can probably attest to this too, is something that you're not good at and it's taking you a long time. If you have opportunity and if you have resources, please hire a person that can, because it will always help you. So for me, for instance, early on in my business, I had a business coach, and I still have a business coach. And that person helps me and guides me and shows me pockets where I'm not paying attention to or blind spots. Also, the other thing that I hired on very quickly is a graphic designer. Like, I was trying my best to pretend I was a graphic designer for a long time, and I was taking centuries to complete simple tasks that I should be completing and I should have been done with. And nowadays, like, yes, sometimes those skills can build over time because obviously we have to wear many hats as a business owner. But like, it's one of those things that if you have to hire somebody and if you have to do something, like, just look into it at least. And I think that what I really appreciate from how your process works is let's meet for that initial call. Like, you're not purchasing anything. I can tell you what works, what doesn't. I can say if your budget works for mine. And I think that's really, really exciting, because I do think when people are trying to hire a content creator, it's very intimidating because we think, well, I can't afford that. She just did, a bunch of content for a really large salon in my area. How am I going to be able to afford her? But I really like the style. I really like what she did with them. So what I would say, you guys, if you're listening and you're kind of fall into that category like myself, just reach out to that person, because you're never going to know what you can do with that person or what their flexibility is until you reach out and really have that conversation. We can't really judge that company, and kudos to somebody that's looking in that direction, because that means that your content is going to look fabulous and they are going to give you that best, advice and the best direction to hopefully bring in those new clients and going forward. So I love that. I think everybody should try a content creator or a local influencer of some sort, because I do think that we can't wear every hat in our business. Hillary, I think this has been such a great conversation. I'm so thankful that you can come in today, and she's in person, by the way, you guys. So we're looking at each other right now and have this conversation, because I do think it's important. A lot of times what I'm seeing with the beauty industry, especially right now, is how to bring in new clients. And that's such a big thing, and how to show up online. Those are so big things. So I think you gave so many gold nuggets to people and such great inspiration. Where can people find you? Where can people follow you? Like, how can they hire you? Or how can we have more information about you? And of course, everything she says, you guys, will be in the show notes. So just know that too.
Absolutely. I would love to connect. I spend most of my time on Instagram, as that's kind of been what we've been focusing on here. Slowly but surely growing the TikTok, but I feel like, Instagram is where I spend 99.9% of my time. You can follow me on my makeup page, which is at Kline Artistry, or you can follow me on my personal page, which is Kline to the Top.
Yes, I think both of them are great pages. Kline to the Top is definitely her page if you want to go for her content creation and that style, and her makeup page is amazing too. Well, thanks again, Hillary.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. I hope you liked that episode and found something useful or a tip that you can use immediately. If you are wanting more marketing tips, business tips, or anything like that, I have a lot of resources on my website. So I have PDFs that you can download for free. So look in your show notes. There should be a link in the show notes that you can click on, and it'll take you right to my coaching website. And thanks for listening.